Hey, welcome back. In this video we will make our program a bit more user-friendly because currently we get these break lines here which it's not so good to have from the user perspective. So let's remove these break lines. But how do we go about this? Again, in todos.txt we don't have these break lines. Actually, we have break lines but only one break line. So there's a \n after prepare, and then there is another \n after shower, and so on. So the extra break line is being produced by the print function here. So we end up with two sets of break lines for each line. So how do we go about this? Do we remove the break lines from the text file, or we do something in here? Well, of course we shouldn't edit the text file. We should edit the representation of the data that is in the text file. So the representation is the list, therefore we should edit the list. So that's the case block, and here we get the to-dos list from the text file, and then we iterate over that to-dos list. But now a solution we could think about is to remove the \n characters from the list, because currently if we print out the list here, we execute the program again, we press show, and this time you're gonna see that that's the print function that I've just added. So that print function produces that list. So the list has these \ characters, and then the loop adds some more. So let's remove these backslashes, and then we fix the problem. So we remove the \ from each item. Therefore, the loop will only produce one \, the \ that it produces by default, and it will not have any other \. Therefore, how do we edit each of these items? So how do we perform batch operations? You learned for loops earlier in the course, so that is something you can use. There are two solutions for this actually. One is for loops and one is list comprehensions, and we're going to go through both. So let's first start with for loops. That's the existing list, but what I'll do is I'll create a new list here. So in the same indentation level, let's say new to-dos variable is equal to an empty list. And then what we do is we iterate over for item in to-dos, we iterate over to-dos. So item will be each item of the to-do list, including the \n, and then we say new item will be equal to item.strip \n. So that command, what it does is this. So let's say item will be equal to prepare \n. Therefore, new item is equal to item.strip \n. So new item now is going to be equal to just prepare without the \n, while item is that one. So new item will be without the \, and then what we do is we access new to-dos.append, and we add new item there. So we're going to end up with a new list which is going to contain the items without the \n characters. And then what we could do is, in here, we iterate over new to-dos instead of to-dos. And that will solve the issue. So now let me rerun the script and type show, and these are the to-dos. We also get the lists here from that print, so we can remove that print function. We don't need it anymore. So that is one way to do it. Another way to clean up the list is to use a list comprehension. A list comprehension is the equivalent of a for loop. So it's just another way to modify the items of a list, but it's a shorter way. You'll see why. And a list comprehension, all it takes is one single line, and it starts always with square brackets. So inside here you write an inline for loop. So a for loop in one line, you would say item.strip \n. So that is one expression. And you say for item in to-dos. And this is going to be new to-dos. So this is basically a list. And I'm going to remove these. We don't need them anymore, but before I remove them, just try to compare the for loop with this. So basically what we're saying is that you can start reading this from here to understand it. So for item in to-dos, you iterate over the to-dos list, store item.strip \n in this list. So this will return an item without the \n. So this item will be part of the list. And this is repeated over the other items. So we end up with 3 items as part of this list. So this will be just a list. So let me delete that now. And the declaration of the new to-dos list. So with the list comprehension, you don't even have to declare an empty list. You create the list on the fly using the list comprehension. So run, show, and we get the same exact output using a list comprehension. However, perhaps we didn't even need to use a list comprehension here. We could apply a more direct method to remove the \n characters from these to-do items. So that way would be to, I'll delete this. The way is to iterate over to-dos as it was. So this was the code in the beginning of the video, which produces again these items with extra break lines. And then what you could do is you want to override the item variable. You could do something like item is equal to item.strip, and then here you place \n, and then this item here will be the new string without the \n character. So let me try this solution as well. And here we go. So I suppose this was a simple solution, but this was a good opportunity for you to understand list comprehensions. So whenever you want to modify the items of a list, you want to use a list comprehension. And of course, luckily or unluckily, sometimes there are more than one solution to do something. Which one is the best? Well, it depends. You should think about readability, but also efficiency. So how fast your code runs. And there are ways to measure the speed of your code, and we'll cover that later. For now, it is important to learn all the core elements of the language. So thank you for following this. I'll talk to you in the next videos.